It is a blessing to be together this Christmas Eve as a congregation. It's part of our regular tradition, and we start, as I said, when there's just a little bit of light, and you can see that over my corner, over my shoulder. It's not quite dark yet, and it will get dark, I'm pretty sure, by the end of our service. So welcome to our members, our friends, our guests. We are a congregation who lives out our values, and we do it in whatever type of year it is. We bring that spirit into the world, and it is part of an evening of mystery and wonder to be together. We come together from across the generations. We come to see Christmas and the holidays through the eyes of a child, and also to see it through our own experiences, the layers that go from Christmas to Christmas. We come also to teach one another, to teach the traditions of this holiday. And the way we're doing it tonight is just shows the power of the traditions. They sometimes happen a little bit differently. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to light our chalice in a little bit different way. And checking out tech support here, we're going to attempt to spotlight several different homes. So Bill's going to try to spotlight me, the Hampshires. Yeah, this is working.
Oh, should I go?
Yeah, okay, just a second. We're going to try to get the Hampshires, Liz and Laura.
From what I can tell, they're all spotlighted, Tom.
We're just going to, what?
They are all spotlighted as far as I know.
Okay, so why don't we start with the Hampshires? Why don't you, Patty, start after I offer these words? I ask everybody to picture the flames, the many flames coming together. And Bill, I'm just seeing your screen. I'm not sure. What are other people seeing? You're seeing me? Okay.
It's exactly what you want it to be, Sue.
Okay.
Hampshires and Elizabeth have to unmute themselves.
Yeah, so just be ready to unmute if you have a speaking role here. So I invite you to picture our many flames coming together. Tonight, we light the chalice in the welcoming spirit of Christmas, a flame of warmth, a flame joined with others in love. Imagine this flame being passed between our homes, between UU congregations everywhere. The Hampshires, you could start out the lighting of the chalice.
Spirit of Christmas, we light this flame.
Liz and Laura.
In the spirit of Christmas, we light this flame.
The Cranwells.
In the spirit of Christmas,
we light this chalice.
And the Drostens would like to light a chalice.
In the spirit of Christmas, we light this flame.
Lovely. All these flames, picture all the houses that are lighting candles. All these flames joined in love. We're now going to have an opening hymn, and it's a little different when you're trying to have services done on Zoom. So I invite everyone, you're going to stay muted, to sing along, and Ellie Walter will lead us in the singing of this hymn, Joy to the World. Go, Ellie. So Do we have the right people muted that we want muted and the other ones not muted? Because it's going to be Sue and Liz now. So Liz, are you unmuted and are you ready?
I am unmuted and I am ready.
Do you have a hat to put on?
Oh, I forgot
I
my
got-
hat. I'll get it.
Okay.
Where's your hat?
Oh, she's gonna
We
go
have
get.
hats. We
She's
had a
running,
dress code for this.
she's running down the hall. Yep,
Okay.
the hat is coming. Complete with bell.
So silly, my little hat I forgot.
We forgot our hats.
Oh no, I'm good now. My elf hat.
So one of the things we talk about during Christmas is telling stories. And last year we did a little different version of this, but we're going to see if we can come up with something for every letter of the alphabet. And we'll see if Liz can keep up with me. You think you're ready to keep up?
I'm ready.
Okay, you're going to get us started. Sometimes we think there's angels and the angels say, I won't be able to hold these up fast enough. Hallelujah. Sometimes there's shepherds. They say, let's go see. And sometimes there are wise men that say, look at a star. We're not going to try to hold all those up all the time, but feel free in your muted place to light these up. So my job is to keep up with Liz and with myself as we get going here.
All right.
Okay.
You ready?
Well, let me get one more piece of paper out here. So we're good here. Get to those next letters. Oh my gosh, we got so many letters. How many do you think we should do, Liz? 26?
Is that how many there are?
I think there are 26 letters. That's the
All
word.
right. As long as there's 26, we should do 26.
Okay, let's do 26. Okay.
All right. A is for angel. We begin our story with an angel whose name is Gabriel. Gabriel comes and tells a young woman, Mary, very important news. Mary, you're going to have a baby. You will have a baby boy, and his name will be Jesus. B. Oh, good job. B is for Bethlehem. Bethlehem's a small town where our story about the new baby takes place. People travel far and wide to get to Bethlehem. C is for census, something we all did this year. Census, which means an official counting by leaders of all the people. The reason so many people came to Bethlehem. D is for donkey. Families traveled to Bethlehem on donkeys. Mary and Joseph had to travel more than 100 miles on a donkey. E is the perfect word this year. It's for exhausted. That's how everyone must have felt when they arrived. They walked all day for 3 days in a row. Anyone here tonight is probably feeling exhausted.
So now I'm going to take a turn and try to do the letters at the same time. So F is for family. Mary and Jesus and Mary and Joseph and Jesus were now a new family. And we're going to hear a little bit more about how they tell the story in the Bible later from Miss Judy Harold. G is for good news. Two different words there, but there was so much excitement. The angels were yelling, hallelujah, this new baby had been born. The shepherds were actually a little scared and surprised. And the angels that Liz talked about before, they said, don't be afraid. It's good news. And the shepherds said, let's go see. H is for hope. Hope is what we want to feel around Christmas. We want to believe things are going to be good. I'm looking at this all backwards as I do this. I is for imagination. Part of what we're supposed to do tonight is to imagine all the cool things that are going to happen on Christmas. And J is for joy. And we just heard Ellie sing Joy to the World. It's about being happy. You ready to take it back, Liz?
I'm ready. K is for king, but it's also for kindness. Jesus was going to grow up and be famous, a sort of a king, but he was going to grow up to be gentle and be kind and care for everyone. L is for love. Jesus would grow up to be a teacher. He would teach about love and how to show love. Jesus would believe we need to love everyone around us as much as we loved ourselves. M is for manger. Remember earlier when Jesus was born? He was laid down in a manger. A manger is usually used to hold food for animals, but this time it held the baby because he had no crib. The manger reminds us that love doesn't need to start in fancy places.
N is for Noel. Noel is actually another word for Christmas, and it means birth. And it's what happened in our story. It's what happens every Christmas season. O is for the offering. Remember we talked about the wise men? There were 3 wise men, and they came and brought gifts. Another word for gifts is offering. P. P is for peace. We celebrate Christmas and we hope that everyone is going to get along. That's what we wish for. That is what the real good news is. It's about people being nice to one another. And the shepherds, they have an important job. They're going to tell everybody about the good news and that it's a time for peace.
Q is for quiet. Lots of parts of Christmas are really noisy, but noisy in a good way. But we also need to find time for quiet, to find peace, to listen to each other. R is for ready. Christmas is a special day, and we each get ready in our own way. We decorate homes, we bake, we find gifts, we get things set on the tree. S is for star. Our special star guided wise ones to come see the baby. They came from far away and brought gifts. The gifts were in the bags and were gold, frankincense, and myrrh. T. Kind of froze, but I'm going to keep going because I think you'll freeze. Good. T is for table. At table, we talk and eat and get to know one another. When Jesus grew up, he taught everyone to invite all to the table and get to know one another. U is for unity. Unity is about remembering everyone is special, and it's right to remind each other just how special everyone else is.
So V is for visitor, and we have to remember that Mary and Joseph, they were visitors to the town, as were the wise men. But I was thinking last night when I did the service, this year V can also be for vaccine. I think that would be a good letter to use for V. W was more about that wonder piece, that it's all gonna get dark, there's gonna be beautiful stars, maybe even some presents. It's a time of wonder. X is tricky, but it's actually sort of an abbreviation for Christmas. It works well. You'll see people write down Xmas, and it's actually from a Greek letter. Y is for you. I want everybody to think about you, whether you're angels or shepherds. You are part of Christmas. You are the reason we have the holiday, so we can all gather and tell these stories. And Z is for zeal or zest. You can pick your letter you want it to be, but it's about the energetic part of Christmas. And I know we saw a couple of the families, we can picture some of the energy out there. And I know Liz is a teacher. She could picture that energy on her calls. So Liz, what are you thinking about now that we've been through the ABCs? What would be a good thing we could all do now?
Man, it would probably be great to see what families are doing. What's going on in everybody's house, I wonder, right now. Do we have a slideshow or something we can watch?
We have a slideshow, and we have some special music that Ellen and Carrie did for us. So you're going to hear a couple different songs put together, and Emily found a whole bunch of slides this morning. So Bill, we could now slide share that piece.
You can hope.
We can hope. That's H. Thank you. Thank you for the music and thank you for the slides. We're now going to hear the story. Liz and I told the story through the ABCs, but we're now going to hear the story as it's written in the Bible. And we're going to ask Judy Harold to do a reading from the Gospel of Luke.
In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn.
Thank you, Judy. We now have one of the gifts for this service, a special gift from our choir, a place we can celebrate a song we've heard before, but heard in a very different way.
Sing we now of Christmas, now well sing we here. Hear our joyful praises echoing bright and clear. Lift up your voice, so let the world rejoice. Sing we now of Christmas, now well sing we here. Sing we now of Christmas, now well sing we here. Spread the Yuletide spirit, comfort every cheer. Sing out with loud and silence. Sing we now of Christmas, now well sing we here. Sing we now of Christmas, join the glad refrain. All the earth rejoices, hope is born again. His goodwill to all resounds in love and all. Sing we now of Christmas, now well sing we here. Sing we now of Christmas, early in the week. Glory in the highest, angels sing. Join with all creation in songs of jubilation. Sing we now of Christmas, Noel sing we here. Noel sing we
Let's show some gratitude for that. Whatever you want to do. Thank you. Ellen, Ray did the mixing, but everyone's voices who were part of that, thank you so much. And I've got a little background noise here, ready to celebrate Christmas. So Christmas 2020 is just about here. We've lit the Advent candles. I've even worn the hat for a couple of services now. Ellen actually got me that hat this weekend. It's very cool. And here we are. We're celebrating Christmas Eve together on Zoom. Christmas does come every year, even in 2020. Even when there has been and still is this nasty virus, even when our plans are changed, Christmas comes. I looked back at the sermon I gave on Christmas Eve in 2019, and I think it's actually worth reading a few of these words. It says, if we listen to the TV or the critics all the time, we start to think that good news is hard to come by, even that it's rare. And that's feeling that we have been sort of worried all the time isn't something new for 2019 or for 2018 or 1974 or 1860. If we go all the way back to a story about Mary and Joseph, a time when there was this young mom who was going to have a baby 2,000 years ago, people were worried this time of year. I thought it was interesting when I read through those words that that was a full year ago. The year had not even begun. And while we've had an unexpected year, there's no way to say it wasn't. We've used the words unprecedented, we've used the words unique. We've said just about everything we can about this year, and it is true. It has been different. But I don't think Christmas is that much different at its core. Every year, especially on these nights right before Christmas, we are invited to hold the world still for just a few minutes. We are invited to stand back, to get some perspective on what's going on. And it's not just for Christmas this year or next year. It's always something we need to do. We tell the traditional stories. We had Judy do our reading earlier, and it's a chance to learn each time we hear the stories of something new. It's a time where we look for joy sometimes in the midst of challenge, or we sometimes consider the challenges that are brought in the midst of joy. We hear these same stories, but each time we've had a different experience of a year. Everybody who's here with us tonight that was here last year, or you were at a service somewhere else, or whatever your traditions are, however you celebrate, you have another year of experience. The ABC story sounds a little different to you. Maybe you've learned the alphabet this year. Maybe you've learned what some of those words mean. Maybe this year you heard the Bible story and you saw that the two were somehow tied together. I was thinking about a few things that we've learned in 2020 to process through this common experience. We had a census, and it's a blip for many of us. It was a small thing that happened. You filled out a piece of paper, but it's a place of unique stress for many. Who is worthy of being counted? What does it mean to be registered? Who feels seen in our communities? Who wants to stay under the radar in fear? And who gets to decide? Thinking about how our courts have changed, how different things have changed. 2020 brought us that census. We know in 2020 some, but not all, have had economic challenges. There's housing security, there's food insecurities, there have been evictions. Will we make room at the inn? Is it that we're really out of room? Is it that there are no rooms? Or do we really have to ask a question? Do we have the collective will to make room? I've thought about it in the context, which has changed even in the last 24 hours. Where do stimulus checks fit into this? Who is living on that last thread and needs some security? And I'm a bit of a weather geek, and so I've also always wondered about the weather. What was it really like that night? Do you think it was just like a little bit chilly? Do you think it was windy? Do you think it doesn't look like the Wiseman hats usually are blowing off? How cold do you actually think it was as that story is told? What would it mean to sit around a fire at Christmas? Because I think a lot of us are going to attempt to spend some part of the holiday outside, something I never would have pictured a year ago. But it's the way our family figures we can get together for at least an hour or two tomorrow outside around a fire pit. So I'm hoping it's the slight chill piece. I'm looking broadly out at everybody, and I know for some folks, celebrating Christmas tomorrow is not really going to be that much different. A lot of folks don't travel every Christmas. We hear some stories, we think everybody has the same experience. Some folks are often either alone or with a very small group. But I also know for some here, it will be a smaller group. There'll be fewer at the table. That was T and Liz's story. There'll be less travel. Maybe something else has changed about what it means for you to celebrate Christmas this year. So all those things have happened this year, and yet Christmas will come. The day will happen, the sun will rise, we'll have the experience of whatever it is, the sun will set, and another Christmas will be added to the books. The stories will be added, and we mark that sometimes holiday to holiday. Here in the story that we heard earlier, a traditional story of a young couple who is a bit bewildered in search of safety. They were trying to find their place. They were making do. And some years are just like that. We need to make do. Picture that scene that unfolds with Mary and Joseph and the shepherds and the wise men. Hear that invitation to stand back. Literally this year, to zoom out far enough to see a new child, a family forming in the way that that family formed, the warmth of a manger. Because I think as we witness things, as we watch things, we are often a bit afraid. For sure, they were uncertain then, and in this setting, as the story has been told for years, we know later, but they didn't know at that moment, that this would be good news. This would be a fresh start in the world. I know over the last 24 hours, my daughter, my niece, members of this congregation, they've been sending pictures of being vaccinated. Think about what that is meaning this year. It is good news. And it's a blessing that we've seen Lee from our congregation giving some of those vaccines. There are times of turning, times of the story that we'll remember that were right up till this Christmas week. We're called to hear all of this in this world and to recognize that our communities are always changing. It's true in 2020, but it's always true. Nothing is static. Take this moment that we're celebrating on Zoom. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to go to gallery view and see the faces of one another. What are you grateful for tonight? What are you hopeful for? What has been the learning for you this year? And in a moment, we're going to try to mark Silent Night, but let me see if I can get a little dog support here.
I got it going. I asked him.
Okay, we've got Daniel. But we've got spare kids. They're in the basement hiding the other dog. So in this moment, as we gather ourselves for the end of this service, as you find your candle to light, think, what is it you are grateful for? What have you learned in 2020? So now is the time in the service, the time that we will hear Silent Night. It'll be played by Dave Moore on guitar. We're so privileged that we can do that. But before Dave plays, I ask us all to settle in. When he plays, you're just going to see Dave like you saw Ellie, but go for a minute if you can to gallery view. Do your best to find that spot if it has it on your computer. If you can darken your room a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and darken ours just a little bit. Take your time. We've got time this year. Find your candle. Go ahead and light your candle. Get your room as dark as you're comfortable with. Get mine a little bit. My candle went out. thought my candles are already burned out from last night. So I've got my candle lit here. Everybody's got their candle. And we now have Silent Night 2020 version.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, child of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
Thank you, Dave. Our closing words, and then we'll have a short postlude. Words from Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and the princes are home, when the shepherds are back in their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild nations, to bring peace among brothers, to make music of the heart. Merry Christmas, everyone. And we're going to go ahead and replay the Holly and Ivy piece. And anybody who wants to stay on and hang on to say hi to one another, we'll do that right at the end.